Andrew Hood. I ran because Jeremy Clarkson saved my life. Without Jeremy Clarkson, without Richard Hammond, without James May, I probably wouldn't be speaking right now. Andrew Hood, from North Devon, was diagnosed with testicular cancer in 2021 after watching an episode of the Grand Tour, which prompted him to get tested for the disease. He completed a 34-mile, 55 kilometers ultra-marathon between Oxford train station and Clarkson's Diddley Squat Farm on Saturday to show his gratitude to the presenter and raise awareness. Clarkson has completed my resources to get tested, so I feel like my work is the right thing to do, said Mr. Hood. In the episode that sent the ultramarathoner to the doctor, the trio of drivers made a little joke about waking up in the middle of the night and needing to go to the bathroom. He said it was these jokes that made him start thinking about prostate and testicular cancer. While in the shower, he started thinking more about testicular cancer and noticed that one of his testicles had shrunk. One of my balls had shrunk to the size of a marble and was hard as a rock, he said. Mr. Hood added, "It usually affects people from the age of 15 to their late 40s. The average age of diagnosis is around 34. I am 48. I have a very good friend who is 69 and was diagnosed last year." Speaking of his run, Mr. Hood said, "First I ran to the farmer's dog, Clarkson's pub. It was about halfway through the course, about 17 miles, 27.5 kilometers, and I had the most amazing welcome and reception. When I got to Diddley Squat, it was very hot. And I got there and was greeted very warmly. I was greeted and applauded. I knew I was going to get emotional and I was. I cried." Clarkson was unable to greet Mr. Hood at the finish line due to commitments outside the UK, but the Devon man wrote a letter to the presenter thanking him for saving his life. "Thank you will never be enough," he wrote. "You made sure my kids still had a dad and you made sure my wife still had someone to keep the dishes out of the dishwasher." A fateful encounter. I am a freelance journalist, specializing in writing about travel and exploring new lands. One day, I received an invitation to join a cruise in the Mediterranean with a group of old friends. In the group, there was a special friend, Jeremy Clarkson, whom I only knew from famous TV shows and articles. The trip started like any other trip, but no one expected that it would change my life forever. On the third day at sea, while we were relaxing on the yacht, the weather suddenly turned bad. A huge storm came, high waves and strong winds made the ship sway violently. In a panic, I was thrown off the deck and fell into the sea. The cold sea water and fierce waves made it impossible for me to swim to shore. I felt myself slowly sinking, my fragile hope fading. Chapter 3. Unexpected Hero. When I was about to give up, a lifeboat appeared. The boat driver was none other than Jeremy Clarkson. He saw me from the boat and did not hesitate to rush out to save me, despite the danger. He pulled me into the boat, shielded me from the wind and waves, and brought me back to the boat. When I got on the boat, I was exhausted and unable to speak. Jeremy just smiled and said, "Don't worry, you're safe." After the incident, I was taken care of and rested on the boat. Jeremy often visited me, bringing funny stories and words of encouragement. He was not only my rescuer but also a great friend, always ready to help others. I realized that, in the most dangerous moments, we can clearly see the value of humanity and courage. Chapter 5. Returning to life. When I returned home, I wrote an article about my experience, praising Jeremy's brave actions. The article quickly attracted the attention of the public and the media. Jeremy later shared my post on his personal page, saying that he didn't need the praise, but that his actions were something he was always proud of. Since then, Jeremy and I have maintained a close friendship. We meet regularly, share stories, and participate in charity activities together. Jeremy's act of saving a person was not only a brave act, but also a testament to the fact that sometimes, people we think are strangers can change our lives in unexpected ways. Meeting Jeremy Clarkson changed my life. He not only saved my life, but also taught me about courage, friendship, and the value of life. I will always be grateful to him and consider him a precious friend in my life. Every morning, I woke up to the image of Jeremy pulling me out of the turbulent sea. Not just pulling my cold, wet body out of the water, but also pulling my soul out of another abyss. An abyss of stagnation, laziness, and complacency that I didn't realize I was sinking into. After that shock, I started to think differently. I looked back at my life, the cramped apartment, the aimless lifestyle, the beer-soaked evenings, and the deadlines that repeated like an alarm clock that never stopped. I remember one time, sitting next to Jeremy on the deck of a peaceful evening, he said, sipping a whiskey. "You know, I almost died when I was driving too fast during a Top Gear shoot. That feeling, that brief moment can change the way you see the world." I laughed at him at the time. But now I understand. I started running, not for sport. Not for the movement, but because I needed to breathe. The first few runs were a disaster. I felt like I was drowning again, my body aching as if someone had hit me with a stick. But I kept running. First 500 meters. Then 1 kilometer. Then 3. Every time I stopped, I imagined Jeremy shouting, "Don't be such a wimp. You survived a storm at sea, don't let a few cramps make you quit." I knew he wouldn't actually say that, but in my mind, it was a constant fire. A year after my accident at sea, I signed up to run my first half marathon in Brighton. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post it on social media. I didn't vlog. I just put on my shoes, got to the start line, and waited for the whistle to blow. For 21 kilometers, I thought about the sea. About the sound of the waves. To the icy water and Jeremy's worried eyes as I passed out in the lifeboat. I finished after 2 hours and 3 minutes. No one was waiting for me. But I cried, not because I was tired, but because I knew I was not the same man anymore. Later that day, I wrote, "I ran because Jeremy Clarkson saved my life." Chapter 10. Jeremy reads it. A week later, I got a text from Jeremy. "Did you really run that marathon?" "I just ran to the fridge. But hey, I'm proud of you. Don't tell anyone I was touched. I have to keep up appearances." I laughed. A relieved, grateful laugh. We arranged to meet at a small pub in the Cotswolds, where Jeremy lives and tends the farm. That day, instead of just making small talk, I looked straight at him and said, "You saved my life twice. Once at sea, and once in real life. I owe you that." Jeremy looked at me, took a drag on his cigarette, and shook his head. "No, you owe yourself. I just helped you hit the restart button." Life wasn't all rosy after that. I still had bad days, mornings when I didn't want to get out of bed, articles that got rejected. But I learned how to run through them. I started a little podcast, Run, Because You Can, where I shared my story and invited people who had metaphorically died and come back to life, to tell theirs. The first episode? Jeremy Clarkson, of course. He came on air, still sarcastic and arrogant, still using words like, bloody idiot, and, sod off, but in between jokes, he said something that left the audience speechless. We don't survive accidents just to continue living the same way. If fate gives you a second chance, at least do something worth living for. If you ever think life is a series of failures, that no one cares if you survive, remember, I almost died. I didn't believe I was worth living, but then someone, a famous, rude, argumentative person, pulled me out of the ocean. Not because he had to, but because people, at the right moment, can be a light to each other. I ran, because Jeremy Clarkson saved my life, and now, I run, to save myself every day.